Should I move it farther down?
Really doesn't matter. I can always do it afterwards. But yeah, it's quite sensitive, so you don't need to like talk to it like an airport. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. First of all, I have to kind of describe what you've done. Boast about yourself. Why is he traveling? Why is she? Why should we listen to you, Ewan? Where have you been? First of all, how many languages do you know?
First question. I would say I know English pretty good.
Bro.
And then with that, I speak like a decent amount of Spanish, enough to kind of work my way through Latin America. And I speak some French, but not really enough to talk to people.
Okay. And for myself, I speak, obviously, English fluently. Mandarin. I mess up a lot, okay? Mandarin, I would say fluently enough to have any normal conversation with anyone from China, mainland China, and have different accents down. Yeah. Spanish is probably my weakest. I think it's not as good as yours, but I have traversed all of Latin America for a year. Yeah. So like transportation, getting tickets, fluent, with enough beer, also fluent.
The alcohol helps.
Yeah, alcohol actually really does help. So that's our languages. The other one is all the countries you've been to.
Oh.
This is a lot for you.
Well, so I started my trip. I was also gone for a year. I started my trip in Europe, right? So I did 3.5 months there. And the countries are so small. So did all of the Balkans minus Romania, Kosovo, and one more. And Croatia. I didn't do Croatia.
Okay.
So should we just go from the top?
I think just list them how you'd like in order.
All right. So started in Turkey, went to Greece, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia, Hungary, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Austria, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Belgium, France, UK, Morocco. I don't think I'm missing anything. Morocco to Lebanon, Jordan, back to Turkey, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam.
Yeah, and that was like 11.5 months, right?
Yeah.
And the other, like, you've traveled as well before. Like, you've been to Latin America already. And that was, if I remember correctly, Mexico, Guatemala, Chile, and Colombia.
Yeah, exactly.
4 months? 3 months?
It was shorter than that. It's like 10 weeks, 2.5 months.
10 weeks, okay. Any other places you would want to refer to draw your knowledge of travel from?
I don't think so, because I didn't backpack in any of the other places.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
It's like a very different
like family travel is like, it's a vacation. Anyone can do a vacation.
Yeah. It's different.
Very different. As for me, my last year of travel started in Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and then I revisited Peru and then back here. And I would mention that I've been to China for 6.5 months for martial arts.
Right.
That was not backpacking though. That was like in a monastery training martial arts. I didn't really travel that much. Maybe 1 week I did a bit of travel, but not. I will draw on that. And I've also been to Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei. So I have a sense of Southeast Asia.
Right.
But not backpacking either. So it's not much. So yeah, collectively, that's a lot of countries for both of us. Yeah. 6 different continents. And a lot of different countries. So a lot of knowledge to draw from. And there's some interesting questions we can dive into now.
Some crazy shit went down.
Oh, okay. Which one of these questions enticed you the most? I think the first few I really thought out and then phrased it correctly. The rest are like kind of basic stuff.
Yeah, we can just why don't we just go from the top?
Okay. First question, which is, how do you allocate your money for travel, experiences, transportation, stay, and food?
It's a good.
Very good question.
It's a good question. So, I found at the start we'd actually used an app. I traveled with my friend Laura for most of it.
7 months, right?
7 months. And we used an app called Travel Spend.
Also use that as well.
Yeah, you know it.
Yep.
And so we would record all of our expenses. So how we would allocate it, really we would just try and keep costs down while maintaining the fun.
Yeah.
Like if you go over there and you don't spend any money, then you've wasted all your money.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have fun, then you've wasted everything. But also if you go over and spend a whole bunch of money on random bullshit, for lack of a better word, then you'll lose like significant portions of your trip. So there's like a graph, you know, like a value versus money graph. And you can benchmark that based on some pretty like significant costs, you know. For example, like you did the Volcán de Fuego in Guatemala, right?
We both did that.
Yeah. Incredible experience.
Amazing.
And it's only like 200
something dollars. Yeah. So it's like a 2-day trek.
Yeah.
Hiking up the mountain, going to Fuego, and then coming down.
Yeah.
So those treks. But the thing is, like in a general sense, for those who may not want to trek or more of the bougie type, spend where you want to see. Like some people are the all expenses. I'm like, that's different from backpacking, but some I know don't like trekking and they would much rather be in a party situation.
Yeah.
So like in Colombia, they would be spending a lot more money on alcohol compared to, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I spent a lot on alcohol as well. But like those experiences, like Nicaragua, I think there was like tickets to go to, what was it? The jungle treehouse party in Nicaragua. That was like a ticket of, I think 60 US. I can't remember the exact cost. But if that's what you want to do, spend the money on that.
Yeah.
And some like trekking, like you did the Lost City as well in Colombia, which is also something I did. That was expensive, man. It's like 500, 600 USD.
I kind of forget. Yeah, it was like...
It was up there. 4-day trek out to... But someone who isn't as avid as trekking or want those hard... That's not where you spend your money.
I think really, when it comes down to it, just... figure out what you want to do and then do some research into what the prices are and plan out, you know, what your big ticket items are. I think when it comes to hostels and stuff, you know, and food,
you go pretty cheap.
With,
like you just be, I don't know, smart with it. Street food, go to the groceries, buy compare the prices. Because when I was in Argentina, it honestly made no difference if I went to go buy groceries or like if I went out to eat. Yeah. So at that point, I just go out to eat. Pizza and beer was like no more than $8. I'm like, I'll just go out to eat. Whereas in freaking Uruguay, the groceries were $70 for like 3 days. Yeah. And like, there's no way I'm going out to eat. Yeah. So yeah, I guess research of like what you want.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. In Europe, we cooked all our own meals. Yeah. Because it's just way too expensive to go out to eat there.
And I mean, you can splurge. Like, I think there's a moment in time, like, I really want to experience that cuisine. And you can go out, find a decent spot, and, like, say you've had the food. I think that's a huge point or part of travel, is experiencing the cuisine. Mm-hmm. Especially if you get it locally. Oh, my gosh, staying with a family. Now, that's probably the best bang for your buck of costs, culture, food.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can do that, that's great. Yeah, and in Southeast Asia too, like you said, it's way cheaper to just eat out.
Yeah, like Southeast Asia, there's no
eat street food.
There's no point to go buy your own pho, get the broth, and like cook it yourself. Like that's so much effort. You can spend, I know for a fact, like $2 to get like a really good bowl of pho.
Yeah, it might be a little more expensive now.
Probably.
When I was there, like a good bowl of pho would put you back like $5 Canadian maybe.
Again, nothing. Like it's, when we go out here, it's freaking at minimum $15, and that's that's McDonald's.
The cheapest bowl of pho I got was 75 cents.
75 cents.
Yeah, but we had to go deep into town, into like this random place where we were the only tourists and foreigners.
Well, to be fair, that's where you get the best deals. It's also sketch sometimes.
Yeah. It was a little sketch.
But
I didn't know what we were eating.
Half the time you don't know what you're doing. You're like, well, we're in this situation now. Let's figure this out. Go with it. But as of allocations, like how I would manage my money, I'd have like a set amount for the month. And we traveled for a long time. But like I traveled and tried to stay like as cheap as possible. No matter what I did, I had kept it very cheap. But when the opportunity came for a spontaneous adventure, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to hold back.
Yeah.
And the big one was Antarctica. My God.
Yeah.
Because like, I think I was pretty good with money, and like I had a set goal. I'm going to spend this much a month. And that was a healthy amount of money to do what I want. Like Machu Picchu, Inca Trail is quite expensive, but I wanted that experience. So I spent the money there, and I would cheap out on like some hostels were bad.
Yeah.
Like you go for the cheapest one, you're like, I messed up. I should have just paid $1 or $2 more for better accommodations.
Yeah. That's actually interesting because I wouldn't go for the cheaper one if it had way worse ratings.
Yeah, because that's for me. I learned after going through so many of the cheapest options, and like just add $1 or $2 more, and you get that much better. Like it's not going to be the best out there, but it's going to be that much better quality, the safety, the cleanliness. Like, do not ever get the cheapest one.
Yes. Yeah. Don't always do the cheapest one. Reviews matter a lot.
Reviews matter.
Read them. Yeah. Also read them. Like read reviews, especially if you're using Hostelworld. Like read reviews.
Hostelworld is a big one on travel.
Yeah.
Use that, and I think it's surprising because like you look at a restaurant on Google reviews, it's like 3, like they must have really messed up, but it still could be good.
Yeah.
Whereas Hostelworld, you get a 7, you're like, they fucked up. Yeah. Like you want to avoid that place. Yeah. Anything under 8, which is supposed to be a high rating. Yeah. Anything under that, I'm still sketched out.
Yeah, absolutely. In Europe, there would sometimes be a city you'd go to where they'd only have like under 9s. But usually if you book maybe a week or even just a few days in advance, you can get better hostels.
Yeah.
But
because that's another interesting thing about like, I think that's on scheduling. We'll probably dive into that more. But like Europe, you have to book everything in advance. Whereas like that's planning, right? And then when I got to Latin America, I was super over planned. Yeah. And like I knew exactly which country I want to go to, the timeline. And then I got there and it's like, nah, just show up and figure it out.
Just roll with it. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's definitely those type of like, especially I think first world is much more of a planning.
Yeah, developed countries, you do have to be a little bit more. Well, like you'll just end up paying more.
So that's like the cost savings on that. Yeah, so like if you plan out a little bit better for Europe, you'll save a lot more money.
Absolutely. We had to do at least 3 weeks in advance. Otherwise, it would be double the price. Like we were watching, in Montenegro.
Yeah.
So when I was traveling, it was like the end of, well, not the end of COVID, but like the summer after COVID was all done, right?
Yeah, like we both left. My flight out was May 30th, 2023. You were like May 15th or something, 2023, like literally 2 weeks. And then when we got back again, 2 weeks of difference.
Yeah. So that summer was people were doing a lot of revenge travel. So it was so busy.
A lot of people were traveling. That's true.
And so I would watch the prices go up the closer and further into summer you get, especially in Europe, the prices go way up.
Dang.
So in Montenegro, we were staying at this hostel. And if we arrived a week later, it would have been 60 euros a night. And the week that we got there is 25 euros a night. Yeah. And I sat with the guy who owned the hostel. And I was looking at a spreadsheet, and you could see every day it was going up 5 euros. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, I didn't really experience that much. The only things I would say that I had to plan for and like really big cost savings for me to plan out were the big ticket itims such as, well, I mean, Antarctica is an obsolete like outlier, but Galapagos. I planned that like a month in advance, my flights, my itinerary, and like really planned that out. Otherwise, I'd be paying almost $1,000 more.
Yeah.
Same thing with, well, I guess Machu Picchu, like that Inca Trail. Anyone could do it, and that's a set price of like 600 USD. Yeah. But you have to like really book that in advance, otherwise you don't have space.
Yeah.
So those big ticket items are something I would plan for, but otherwise that goes into costs.
What was the question again? Can you make sure? I just want to make sure we answer it.
Staying out on the cost, like how did you allocate the money? More or less, I think for food and stay, we did not the cheapest out there, but like do your research on that.
Yeah.
Close to minimum as possible. And then splurge on the experiences. Because you're out there for the experiences. You're not going to talk about, I stayed in this beautiful, I did stay in some beautiful places.
But those are almost experiences in themselves.
Yeah, like if you want the experience to say like, I stayed in this beautiful resort.
Yeah. And
like I've stayed in some beautiful places. I'm sure you have as well. But like those are maybe what you want to experience. But if you want to experience trekking, hard experiences, that's where your money goes to. So really the money allocated to what you want, and you save and compromise in other places.
Yeah. So, moral of the story: you decide.
That's gonna be a lot of this. So you decide what you want for your travel. Like it's all you.
But I think like as a general rule, save money on food
And where you're staying.
And where you're staying and transportation if you could. Like we took a lot of buses.
Buses suffer
a lot
for
of
the
buses.
time.
And you suffer. Yeah, you suffer. But you save a lot of money.
Yeah,
right?
like if you fly everywhere, I think the most expensive flight was from Peru to Brazil for me, which is $600.
Yeah.
But if you had the time, like I think I'd like look for the flights. I had one flight in Argentina that was like $100, not even.
Yeah.
Which is cheaper than the bus. Or the bus, sometimes I was like 28 hours.
Yeah,
those are harsh ones. But I saved a lot of money spending like just $60 on that rather than a $200 flight.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, it's their comfort level. So I really cheaped out as much as I can.
Yeah, if you can just suffer the bus ride or the whatever the transportation situation is, you can end up saving a ton of money. I knew a lot of people in Southeast Asia that they would take flights between some of the capitals of these countries, but I would always take overnight buses.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it does suck, absolutely, because sometimes they double book you the same seat, and you're like, well, you guys figure this out. Like, this is not on me. The bus might crash or like have an accident or get stuck on the side of the road.
Yeah,
but that's part of the adventure, honestly.
in the Balkans, the bus driver would smoke in the bus.
It's better than freaking going 100 kilometers and seeing the freaking driver on the phone. And you're like, bro. Man. It's better just not to see. It's just
man, in Albania, like the bus driver would just pull over and take in someone's groceries and then drive down the street and hand them out to somebody else.
Yeah, like the same thing happened in like most of Latin America. They stop in this random city that's in the middle of nowhere and they pick up some random groceries from the locals and then drive like 3 hours and then drop it off. Like what is the system?
The buses double as delivery vans.
Yeah.
I found that out.
I mean, but that's like a fun experience. And then there's the nice part of like spending money on high end stuff. Cause I remember in China, I always took the cheap trains all around. But I was like, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm going to Beijing. I'm going to experience the high speed trains. And I took that once. Worthwhile as talking, going through 100 kilometers in a train.
Yeah.
One time, sure. I enjoyed it. So yeah, cost savings, more than that.
Yeah.
Second question. Yeah, that was a
long one. Long one. Have to stay focused.
Yep. This one's a really good one. What are things new travelers should be most conscious of? And my brother tagged on the other part. What are things new travelers shouldn't be worried about as much?
What should they? Okay, so like, what are the
like any new traveler? Like this one's gonna be a long conversation, but they like new travelers. Like when we started traveling, are concerned about safety or like language and like what is something that we should be more conscious of that we don't talk about. Okay, and then what is something that people over exaggerate that they shouldn't be that worried about while traveling? Okay, so. Are we talking about like day-to-day actual travel? I think we got to define it too, because like for us, we've long-term travel. Because I think the biggest one I want to talk about, which is a leading question, is burnout. Right. I think travel burnout doesn't get as much. That's another question on here. It's a whole different question, but I think that's something that's a big conversation. That's a big whole conversation on its own. But I think that's something that people should be conscious about when they're traveling. Yeah. Because when you do 2-3 weeks, you're not going to get travel burnout. No, it's fine. You're on a vacation. But those who do, I think even upwards of 2 to 3 months, like that's when travel burnout comes in and tricks in, because you think you're going to be 6 months traveling the world, doing everything you want, but you don't actually talk about being homesick, the burnout. Yeah. So I think that's a big conscious one that people don't talk about. We'll save that one. Yeah. That's the most important one. That should be the finale. Yeah. But let's just break it down into like day-to-day concerns as a new traveler. Like what are the priorities almost? Like if I get somewhere, the first thing I'm doing, getting a SIM card. Depends if you use eSIM or not. That's a huge one because I think you've traveled. I traveled with no data for 7 months. Okay, so that's interesting because I needed data. Yeah. Without data, I would have been fucked. Excuse my language, but in so many different situations, I would have been screwed over. That's why I find fascinating because there's a lot of times where data would have saved my ass, but like I just figured it out, and now it's just second nature to just travel with no data. Yeah. And I'm at first I was like, how do you do that without data? And then I just slowly eased into it. I'm like, I know the language, I know how to get around, and it just became second nature to just travel without it.
Yes.
But I think SIM card is absolutely something you should first get off.
Yeah.
My first go-to when I land in a new country is that I spend the extra money to take like a taxi or a secure way to a hostel or where I stay. And then I talk to the locals instantly. That's my first go-to.
Ah, okay.
Because I want to know, like, hey, what's a dangerous situation? Like, how, like, you're a local, you know food, you know money, you know, especially safety-wise, like, what street do I not walk down? That's my first go-to.
So it's interesting because your experience in South America is very different from the rest of what I experienced in the rest of the world. Because I know my time in Colombia was probably the most dangerous place that I went. Also the first country that I backpacked.
Bro, you started there?
Yeah.
To be fair, that I will say I did get robbed in Colombia.
Yeah. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. So I think definitely agree with you. Safety, money, you need some money, you need a SIM card so that you can, in my opinion, so that you can figure out like what you're going to do. Google if you're getting scammed. Google if like this is something you need.
Like Google Translate for language as well.
Google Translate, yeah. I think internet is your best friend.
Literally.
So I think it's crazy that you didn't do it.
Okay, to be fair, I think the internet is a very big not cop out, but like a tool that we need to like utilize for travel. Because like I don't know the language, well then just Google Translate.
Yeah.
I don't know the currency exchange. You have internet, you can check. What's the best way to get money here? Are you using cash, credit card? And you can just do a Google search to figure that out for whatever country you're in. So really, the internet is like the best way to really have everything set.
Yeah.
So an eSIM, getting a SIM card there is probably one of the first things you should get.
Yeah.
As a first-time traveler for sure.
Just make sure you have internet.
Yeah.
Really.
That's
internet and money, your passport.
Backup money as well. I always have like whenever you take out money at whatever new currency you have saved. And even I think USD was very strong.
Yeah.
I maybe shouldn't say this, but I always carried 100 USD bill on me.
Yeah.
That's your easiest way. Like I can get out of a situation if needed.
Yeah. So that's actually a really interesting point. It helps. So my brother, this was his rule, was $500 worth of currency on you, 100 USD backup in case you needed to do whatever to get out of a situation. But I just carried all my money in like a little pouch.
Yeah.
Here.
Like a money bag on your person that you always check. Yeah.
Yeah. Having those different currencies can be really beneficial.
Yeah. Cause like USD, I think reigned pretty supreme in a lot of the countries I went to, like Ecuador, El Salvador, Argentina. Even though they don't have USD as a local currency, it is strong there. Yeah. So it's like having that USD definitely helps, and is like a first thing you probably have just carrying around all the time.
Yeah. What else?
I think those are the main
other people should be conscious.
Basic. Another big part is that some things that people are not aware of. They say like we say we're solo backpackers. Absolutely, you're never alone. It's not solo backpacking. Yeah. It absolutely isn't. You're doing the same thing as everyone else, and you're all probably going to conjugate at the same hostel. You're going through the same things, using the same apps, and you're never really alone. Yeah, you can always find like-minded people. Yeah, unless you go to like a really remote, small town. Yeah, like a cultural experience. But the thing is, again, you're not alone. If you're spending the time and effort to go to those places, they treat you quite well. They do, yeah. Yeah, usually less tourists, better you get treated. Yeah, I found that is true because oh my gosh, the touristic areas I like to avoid because they're all prone to like scams and all that, and trying to get you to spend your money. But once you get to a local, less tourists, you get to learn about the culture, the people, and like that part I valued a lot more. And this is I think where the internet comes in, is that if someone is offering you something and you're in a new country and you just want to know if it's a scam or not, you can Google it. Yeah, actually. And I did that all the time in Southeast Asia. I'd be like, this person is offering me a tour on the back of blah, 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 blah. This is their company name. Is it a scam? 9 times out of 10, yes. Right? Well, not 9 times out of 10. That's a lot. Yeah. But very, very frequently it would be yes. And that would save you
like a really tough experience.
Yeah, because for scams, I don't think I got scammed that much. But I might have been just ignorant for some of the experience because I've never searched it up. I've gone through different experiences that could have been a scam, and I couldn't have known better.
But also, if you didn't know it was a scam, then it wasn't a scam.
That's true. Well, there's definitely things I'm just like, I would not pay that much again for that. Probably a scam.
Yes.
I could have.
You get overcharged, but like.
Yeah, you get overcharged, but then you realize, like, you think about something like there's tipping and all that. And,
yeah, but that's actually a big part of it. You have to pay your stupid tax.
Yes.
Every person has to pay their stupid tax.
That's a great way to put it.
And don't feel bad for it. You know, just like chalk it up. All right, that was my stupid tax.
Like it's a lesson. Like a big one as well is I found a lot of travelers. Like I have exactly I'm gonna make up a number, $5,000 to travel with, and that's all they have. I'm like, no, don't do that. Have like a cushion. Anyone in life. It's just a life lesson. Have a cushion. Don't be stranded somewhere and have $0. Like you're robbed out of everything. Have an offshore account or someone who can access money to give it to you in case you're robbed of everything to get you home. Like you don't be stupid to have only $5,000.
Yeah. Well, also like having access to extra money, have multiple credit cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple credit cards.
Like get a MasterCard, get a Visa, get a debit, because there will be situations where you can't use one of them.
Yep.
Or you can only use one of them. Or one isn't working in that country and you need to withdraw money. Like I was in Sri Lanka and the only card that worked was my TD Visa card, because the other ones weren't able to withdraw money in that country. So I had to use that one, and I had like $100 a day or like $300 a week max limit, and so it was pretty sketch. But if I didn't have that, the other thing is I wasn't alone.
Oh, so that's great.
I was with my friend who, oh man, there's so many tips I would have now. Because if you have like a Western Union account, or if you have Wise, you can pay people back internationally. They can withdraw money for you. You just send them money, and then you're good to go.
I love how you bring up Wise and Western Union, because like when I first traveled or started, never knew them, never used it. Mm-hmm. But now that I have access to Wise, I might have never used it during my travels, never touched it. But now like I'm traveling much more internationally, like other continents, going to be using that a lot more. Yeah. And Western Union was a huge thing in Argentina. Yeah. So like just having those already set.
And for those of you who don't know, Western Union is basically, think of it like an ATM you can e-transfer money to.
Literally, like, and you can go pick up the money. All you need is like an ID.
Yeah. So you just send your money to your Western Union account, and then you can go to any Western Union branch and withdraw it.
Yeah.
And they take some off the top, but like that's just the price.
Yeah, that's just like the transfer fees and all. It's not really affordable, honestly. Like it's not a crazy transfer fee.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for money, and
especially if you lose all your cards. Like if you get
robbed, because really there's situations where my account was frozen, and I couldn't even withdraw money, and I just got to a new country, and I had to use my backup money and like figure out with my bank, and it takes a while. You're burning through money, but luckily I had a credit card that worked, so I could pay in that form.
Exactly, yeah. And you can do a lot of that, and you need the internet to do that.
You do, absolutely.
So like you can get Wi-Fi, but this is what I mean, where like your three main resources as a traveler are time, money, and internet.
Yeah.
The rest can basically be figured out if you have those.
Yeah, those three definitely would be the staple. I want to add in like local, how do I say it? The local word, or like what local people are talking about. Yeah, exactly. Like those people who are traveling in that area. Right. Or like have been through there, I would listen in, and like whispers of the road is basically like if people are talking about let's do this is not safe. Like I take that into a huge account. Like when you said Cali, you wouldn't go there, and I'm like, okay, I know not to go there. And me and my friend both left Panama City like almost the same day. He went to Cali, I went to Santa Marta. Yeah. Within the week, he got robbed. Yeah. So I'm like, because I knew that, I avoided a dangerous spot and a lot of headache. Yeah. Yeah. And you'll also, the other thing I'd say is like for a new traveler, one thing to be conscious of is you don't need to know your whole path. No, you don't.
Because honestly, it's better not to have your whole path because, like you said, that advice from other tourists, other travelers is so important because
Absolutely.
at different times of the year, there might be different things going on, or it might not be good to go somewhere because it's too rainy or it's too hot, you know? So getting advice of what it's like right now on the ground, once you reach the country, the best thing you can do. So for me, all I would do is book like the first 3 nights somewhere.
Yeah.
Just to land, get equipped, you know, get your sim, get your money.
Yeah, that's like, it's figuring out the country, like getting yourself
Yeah.
situated. And then my big thing is talking to people in the hostels, talking to people locally. Like I might book one like city tour and then talk to the people doing the city tours. Like what are they doing? Where are they staying? And like that would kind of like guide my route through Peru or any country I'm going to.
The nice thing is when it comes to the hostels is probably 50 or 60% of travel is just talking about travel.
Yeah.
So you will inevitably find out all the stuff.
Absolutely hear someone like just talk about something you were interested in or want to go to do.
And this is a pro tip. Ask them why they liked it. Because
that's a big one.
Why somebody liked the city or liked the thing can do almost nothing to do with the city or thing itself. They met somebody, the weather was really good, they really enjoyed the food, their expectations were met. Something about why. And usually it has everything to do with the people that they were there with, right? And less about the thing that they were doing. So if they can describe the thing, like Volcan de Fuego, it doesn't matter who you go with, it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Right? I mean, you might get shitty weather.
We got shitty weather.
Yeah. I got great weather.
Yeah. But that's the main thing. I'm like, whenever asked, like, because we've traveled so long and probably to the end of it, we're tired of these conversations. Mm-hmm. But people would ask, like, why, like, what would you recommend for this country? I'm like, well, what do you want? Yeah. My question would be like, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z. Like, what do you want? Yeah. Because if you want a party situation, I'm going to say, yo, go to Nicaragua or Colombia. Yeah. Oh, you like trekking? Go to Argentina or Peru. Like, I have to cater to what they like. Yeah. It's not going to be like, oh, all travelers are going to be like this. I've met introverts and extroverts who still travel. They do very different things. Yeah. And the reality is you could do the same thing as somebody and hate it. Yeah. You just have a shitty experience. And that's just travel. That's just how it is, you know? Like, you're rolling the dice every time you do something. Literally, because I think one spot we both went to but had very different experiences was Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. Yes. Because did you spend 2 weeks there as well? I spent, I think, a week. A week. But you were sick for majority of it, right? Yeah, I pulled up very sick after Volcan de Fuego hike. And so I spent most of it just sick in the hostel. And the hostel that we had booked at had broken air conditioning, like barely running water. And we actually moved halfway into a party hostel while I was sick. So that's harsh. That sounds harsh. But that's what I mean. It's like, it's so individual. I would not recommend someone to go to San Pedro, but you would. Oh my, yeah, that's the whole opposite. Because I rushed to get San Pedro to do Spanish lessons. They set me up with a host family, and the timing couldn't have been better. They have a San Pedro week where they're celebrating. They have concerts, they have fireworks. It was quite loud, but my family got me drunk. They had amazing food. I loved it so much I stayed an extra week. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, it was very stormy, I will say, but I loved the experience there, the people I met, and even then I traveled afterwards with some to Acatenango and did the trek with them. Yeah. So it's like a tagged on experience throughout the entire trip. So did you do that? Like, not to provide credit, but like as a reference, you know, because I went to Atitlan first. I heard about those schools, and I think I told you about them. But were you going to go anyways? I was going to do it absolutely, despite the fact. Like, I talked to... Did you know about them before? Not 100. Actually, I did. I've had several references because Marissa, a girl I'm traveling with to Bangkok in about 3 weeks, but she has been talking about this specific location for a long time and about the schools. And you also mentioned it as well. Like, it'd be a nice tag on to continue learning Spanish. Yeah. Once, like, it's a good start for my entire trip. Yeah. So I heard it from you. I heard it from Marissa. And then on the way down, that's a big one as well. I heard a lot of people talking about this place, about this beautiful location, about learning the Spanish. And honestly, it's probably one of the best locations I would admit. Yeah. Like, scenery, the people, the kindness, the locals. I loved all of it. Like you can absolutely do it in Colombia. I've heard that's pretty good. Ecuador is also a place, but I looked at the places and like I had a friend who had the exact same experience, but in a different city in Guatemala.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And like I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like you did something very different for me. And if I would go back, I would do that.
Yeah. So like such like exact same location, exact same town. And I'm pretty sure I know which hostel you were. It was like something Llama? The party hostel?
No, Corazon. I was at Corazon de San Pedro or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then went to Mr. Mullet's or
Mr. Mullet's. That's the party hostel I'm talking about.
Hostel, yeah. That was.
But like I love that area for everything because I think you just stayed in San Pedro.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of towns.
There's a bunch of towns around. So like I talked to the dad and he's like, okay, you only have class for 4 hours, which will get you drunk for. But afterwards, go to this city because they're a market city. Yeah. Go to this city. There's a beautiful hike here. Go to this city. And it's like, I did everything a local would because I had local word. Like, go to this tour at this place because it's so cheap. And I love that. It was all guided for me once I got to talk to someone.
Right.
So very different experiences of like local word, I think is a big one on there as well with the SIM card. Yeah. The money situation, figuring that out.
Get tips from people. I summing them up.
Yeah. Sum them up. Tips, money, internet, and what?
Planning ahead? Well, you can go and edit it.
Yeah, I'll
listen to it.
It's not. It's gonna be completely. There's no edits.
Here's the list. Right here.
Editing, great. Anyway, yeah, we didn't really. This is how podcast goes, right?
We're gonna be loosely following this outline.
Yeah, take those off. This one's very. You want to do this one? The natural disaster and all that. That's much more towards you.
Sure.
All right. Next question. I made this question specifically for you. Have you experienced disasters, either natural or humanitarian, and how did you handle it?
I have. Wow.
Surprise.
And humanitarian.
I think that one I was leaning towards Lebanon.
Lebanon? Okay. Yeah. There's also, I'm going to add in like another one in there. There's probably 2 stories that I think. So first off, he's referring to in Morocco. I was there in the earthquake last September. So I was in Marrakesh, which wasn't at the epicenter of the earthquake, but it was, I think, 200 kilometers away. And so it was a 6.9, I think, 6.9 earthquake. And I was in downtown, like the Medina, which is the very tightly old neighborhood of Marrakesh. And we were just on the roof. It was 11 o'clock at night and everything just started shaking. And it shook for probably 10 seconds, not even that long. And then a cloud of dust just came over the roof. And
because there were some buildings beside you that collapsed, right?
Well, we didn't. Well, hold on. Well, you're jumping ahead.
Okay, sorry.
So weirdly enough, the first instinct everyone had was just to group together. We were just on the roof. I don't know why we did this, but everyone just huddled together like penguins. We all just ran together, or like a pack of animals. I don't know. It was comforting to stand next to people. So we were in the Medina. We didn't know what to do because, well, one, I had never been in an earthquake and didn't know what to do in an earthquake. 2, there's always aftershocks.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to figure out, do we stay? Do we leave? How do we leave without, walls or buildings or stuff falling on your heads? Because that's the danger, right? So we found out, pretty quickly that the main thing to do in an earthquake is to run to open area.
Yeah, like open streets, open fields.
Open fields, somewhere where stuff can't fall on you, basically. Yeah. And so we got out of the hostel, and based on how the Medina was, there's only one road out towards like the big square. That's where we wanted to go. It was the closest place that would not have any stuff wouldn't fall on you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so we got onto the street and quickly found out what the source of the dust cloud was. The building next to us, I think 2 doors down, had collapsed and was blocking the road. And it was rubble probably up to my head, maybe taller. So you couldn't see down the alleyway. You couldn't see past it. And it had also taken down the power lines with it. They were either power, internet, or something. But they were like, and I walked up to it, and it was just a mess of rubble and power lines and glass and stuff. And I didn't know if I stepped on it, would you die? And so we went back inside, kept trying to figure out what to do, seeing if we could, can you run across roofs to get to the open area? You can't. The walls are too high and uneven. And I just got this text from my friend. She's like, okay, we crossed the rubble. I was like, what? And so I was in the group of people, and I just ran. Probably not good for keeping everybody calm, but I just bolted down the stairs. I was like, fuck this. Because in that moment, you're like,
you're not thinking rationally. You're making a life or death situation, like a decision right there.
Yeah. So looking back on it, it's fine. But in the moment, you don't know if there's going to be another aftershock and your hostel is going to be the one to come down next. And so the other thing is, we didn't know if we crossed the rubble, if there was going to be like 7 other buildings that had collapsed, right? Because this was 2 doors down from us. That's right
close. There. And like, what are the chances of other places is pretty high. Probably.
Exactly. Because it seems so relevant, or it seems so, common. And then I bolted, and there was this man standing on top of the rubble, and he was like ushering me. He's like, come on, go. And so I ran over the rubble onto the other side. There's a big pool of blood. I was like, we're just going to ignore that. And I ran over that, and I was just running down the streets. I was alone at this point, and just trying to remember which way to zigzag through the street, and always like watching overhead if something was going to fall on you.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like signs and balconies and like just a bunch of shit. It's a market. And so I was running through the streets, and I got to the first spice market, which is like the smallest open space or the biggest open space that was closest to us. There's the big square further.
Yeah.
But I got there, and it was just a mess. I mean, first of all, I got in there running, and the Moroccan people just laughed at me. They're like, bro, chill out.
In that situation, because like my thought process, like, yeah, you can open space, no shit. But like in the situation, you're not thinking straight. No one's like thinking straight. Like, what the heck happened? What is this? You're in a panic.
You're in a panic, but nothing's actively happening. The earthquake is over. So it's this really weird experience of the danger is kind of gone.
The main danger, right? The aftershocks aren't as big, but they can still happen.
But they can still, they did happen. They did come. Yeah. They weren't as big, obviously, and they didn't destroy more stuff. But so, anyways, we get there, and like there were people getting treated for wounds, and a lot of people were crying and screaming and stuff, and we met up. Like I met up with my friend and the rest of the people from the hostel, and we stayed there for a few hours, not really sure what to do. And it's really weird because at this point we still had internet. So I was texting my parents being like, hey, well, actually I called my mom while the earthquake was happening. And when I got out the door, I was on FaceTime with my mom, and I looked down, I was like, Mom, the road's blocked, sorry. And I had to I hung up right there.
Road's blocked. Give me a second.
But when I got to the square, I was like, I'm safe, and she was fine. So she only had a few minutes of panic.
Yeah, jeez.
But so we were there until 2 or 3 a.m. At which point, we had gone to the main square and come back, because the thing is like, okay, the earthquake's over. I don't have any of my stuff. What do we do now? Because the most safe option is to just leave, get all new stuff, and figure it out later. But that's also a pain in the ass.
That is, and I cannot imagine replacing everything
you have, yeah. At that point, like, I don't know, maybe just go home, but, you could figure it out.
But you went back and retrieved your stuff?
So we wanted to go back, but the hostel owner wouldn't let us. He's like, no, there was a wall next to the wall that collapsed, And by the way, we saw no other collapsed buildings, maybe one other.
Okay,
So we just got really lucky, I guess. So in the whole Medina that I saw, there was only 2 collapsed buildings. But there was another wall next to our hostel that was leaning.
So it's like the structural integrity, you don't know. Yeah, everything has to be reassessed.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was like, no, we're not going back. I will, and eventually we convinced him, you know, I will go back and get it, but you guys stay here. And we're like, well, how is that going to work? All our stuff is everywhere. And he got us on FaceTime and was like packing up all our bags inside the hostel. And then he called for the guy who was FaceTiming him, who was with us, to go back because the bags were all packed and they were going to bring them into the... While that guy was going there, that wall collapsed. Yeah, so it collapsed and collapsed like right between the guys, basically, as they were... So one guy's coming out of the hostel, the other guy's coming to him. The wall collapsed like right in the... throws up dust everywhere. There's a video of this happening. And it's just a cloud. And so he comes back to us. And at that point, I felt like such a dick because we had just asked this guy to go pack our bags, you know, just stuff. And somebody could have gotten really hurt. So that was kind of tough to deal with, you know. We didn't know that it was going to happen and it could have collapsed in a week, you know.
Yeah, like you never know these situations. And in my head, I want all my stuff back. Like I would even go in myself. Yeah. I just wanted my stuff and I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just to avoid that headache.
And it only took 15 or 20 minutes. It just happened to be that 15 or 20 minute period that the wall collapsed. Oh my gosh. And it would have collapsed probably where we were standing also if we were waiting outside the hostel to get our bags. So that was crazy. And then, yeah, after that, you know, we just took the first bus out of Marrakesh and went to the coast. But yeah, it was really, every time there was a motorcycle or like a loud engine starting, a loud noise, because when the building shook, it sounded like a bomb going off, right? It was like a deep rumbling.
Yeah.
And so anytime there was a sound like that, you know, you'd be on edge, and that was, you know, I was really uncomfortable being inside for at least, you know, a month or two after that. But yeah, you just, I don't know, like, you can't really plan for it.
You can't plan for it. It's just going through that experience. Like, I don't even know what you could have done better. Like,
you don't, because you just don't know. And the good choices only reveal themselves after
the fact. Yeah, it's in hindsight, obviously, right?
In hindsight, right? Like, yeah. So you just make the choices you make, and then, you know, you kind of have to just resign yourself to the fact that it might go your way and it might not.
Yeah.
Right? Like we got very fortunate that it went our way this time. But yeah. So I don't know if there's a lot of lessons to be found there. I think
there's more or less that experience, because like one thing I do want to say, my dad is very, very much like, oh, this country's dangerous, this and that. I'm like, these countries are going to be dangerous and things like that will happen. And I'm sure like when I go travel, something to that sorts, God forbid, will ever happen during my travels or ever experience that. But like, it's not going to stop me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Like you still continued onwards, which is amazing. Because a lot of people is like, that's it. That's the end of my trip. I'm going home. I'm going to reset myself, like situate myself and then continue. But for you to push on forwards, like it takes a lot of strength and confidence, and it builds your confidence onwards.
Yeah, I think the other part of it was that my family offered to fly me home, right? They offered to pay for my flights and get me back. But I was like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to come home, and nobody at home is going to know what I just went through. At least the people in Morocco I can talk to about it, right? You know, at least we can reminisce and like share stories and live it and process it together. If I just come home right now, I'm just going to sit in it alone, right? And be isolated.
I never thought about it like that, but it's also very big, because like the second I got home after the travels, there's not really anyone to talk to about this stuff, like the experiences, the place you've been. And I think honestly, not staying in the city, that probably would have been the best idea, but like in the area, the people you were traveling with, like everyone went through it, like talking to those people really would help, like everyone get your own perspectives, calm each other, like you're all going through it together. So stay together.
Exactly. exactly. Stay with the people who, understand, until you're at a point where you can move on from it. And I was very fortunate that Laura and I went through it together. And there was a moment when we were going from the small square to the big square, and all the lights were off. So we were just running through these like maze of streets, and we were just holding hands, hoping that like something didn't fall on our heads. And it felt like we felt like we were in the Amazing Race at that point, just like running down these streets in the Medina.
That is such a blissful moment of just like travel that you experience. Just like one, I don't want anyone to ever experience that, but like again, that's an experience that you're like can look back on and just say like that's something you had gone through, and like experienced, which is I don't want to say beautiful, like it's something you can look back on and be fond of now. That still blows my mind, because there's some things on my travels I was just very lucky on timing, because once I left Ecuador, oh my gosh, it got so much more dangerous afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So that was that. And then we flew to Lebanon.
And the next story.
So that was September. And in Lebanon, on the 8th day there was when we woke up to like the rockets being fired into Israel. Yeah. I don't know anything about the conflict really before. Yeah. I like, I'd seen bits and pieces of it. I will admit that I was extremely, ignorant going into this region.
I'll admit I'm still ignorant a little bit about it.
So we didn't know what was happening. And that was a really unique experience, because after that we went to Jordan a couple of days later, and something like 70% of the population of Jordan are Palestinian refugees, right? Who were kicked out of their land. And so we don't need to make this political. I would like to. I feel very strongly about this issue. But that was, a really interesting experience. While we were there, the first hospital in Gaza was bombed.
Yeah.
And we were at the bar, which is interesting because like Jordan is kind of like it's a Muslim country.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like very dry, right? Yeah.
But we were at the bar, and the tweet came out that the hospital had been bombed, and everybody just started crying. Right, it just became like very, very somber experience. One of the guys at the table had lost 26 family members that week. So it was just like, it's just so real when you're next to it, right? Yeah. And people who are losing family members, and you see them, right? And you see like this is their reality, right? And I would get dreams while I was there of people like imagining my family in Gaza, right? Imagining my family, and anything that they do, there's potential they die, right? And that just made it so real. And so that night of the hospital bombing, we were going to go to the embassy, the Israel embassy in Amman, and protest. But by the time we got there, we had to drop somebody off at the airport, and they had it shut down. But there were protests on the street now, like not riots, but protests, and not very serious protests either. But there were people, with the flags and everything running around, and the police were shooting tear gas and stuff. And, we were downtown Amman. So, some of the tear gas would float on the wind into the hostel. So got a little secondhand tear gas, but it was just really interesting. And meanwhile, my family's saying like, come on, dude, like you just escaped an earthquake. Now you're in protest. Now you're in like regional instability. But to me, it felt quite safe actually, because I was with a bunch of locals, right? And they'd seen this stuff before. They knew,
like they live this day to day. So they're like, if anyone would know, they would.
Yeah, they would know what to do. And when a local is scared, that's when you should be scared.
Oh, absolutely.
And they weren't scared.
I've had some experiences where locals were running. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah?
Very different situation.
Okay.
When we were in the Amazons, in Bolivia, there was a green mamba wrapped around a tree. And this is a very poisonous snake from what our guide told us. And like it was veering its head back and forth. And my friend's like, isn't that when they're supposed to like attack? And this is like a tree we're looking on for quite far away.
Yeah.
But then the second the guy jumped, the local was like, our guide was sprinting. And we were like, well, fuck. Everyone started sprinting. We sprinted for a good 100 meters to be clear from that snake.
That's crazy.
But like, yeah, like when a local runs, I would best believe I'm sprinting.
Yeah.
But like, if anything, yeah, the locals would know. Like, if this is dangerous, and I'm surprised that you felt safe, because, like, again, my ignorance would say, like, yo, dude, I heard that you went through that earthquake, and then, like, not a month later, you're, like, in Jordan going through this. I'm like, dude, like, disaster follows you, but, like, go somewhere a little safer or relax. But, like, if you felt safe there, which is a big thing, like, if you've been there, it's safe. I think I'm going to go there now. Yeah,
I mean, Jordan is extremely safe. That's like their main thing is that they are regional stability, right? They are the one country in the Middle East. I guess Saudi's pretty, in the Emirates
like there's certain areas that are like better than others, and Jordan's being one of the safer ones.
Yeah, so
despite being so regionally close to the conflict,
to all of it,
that's really like because I would have never guessed that actually. Like hearing about the whole issues on Free Palestine, like I would imagine Jordan wouldn't be the safest place.
Yeah, it's super safe. And dude, honestly, like the people that I met in Jordan, most of them were Palestinian, and they were so lovely. Like everybody there was so welcoming. It was just completely different from what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
and those experiences where you go somewhere that you're not sure about, 9 times out of 10 you will leave there being appreciative of the people and the fact that you did it, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's like gaining that perspective.
Yeah.
Of like understanding what other, like their culture, their language, what they're going through, their conflicts politically.
Yeah. It's just amazing. So, yeah. And, I mean, did I ever tell you my passport story?
Did you lose your passport?
No. Okay, so also at this time, like September, October, everything was just going down in the world because India and Canada were having troubles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get the full story, but yeah, you were going to India. Is this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this all links together because after Jordan, we were going to go to Israel before.
Yeah.
So India and Canada get into an argument. Well, not an argument. They assassinate a Sikh leader outside of a temple, I think they're called. Anyways, in BC, and Canada, confronts India, blames them. They deny it, but they also say there's no more visas for Canadians because we can't promise the safety of our diplomats in Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was going to go to India after Israel.
Yeah.
With my brother to go to a wedding.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my visa yet. So either I just wouldn't go, or because my mom's from Scotland, I could get my UK passport, but it was in Canada. So she was going to ship it to somewhere that I was going to be before I went to India so that I could get it, I could pick it up and go. And so she shipped it to Tel Aviv, like 2 days before, the conflict's been going on for a long time, but like it escalated 2 days before. So while it was in the air, this happens, and it lands in Tel Aviv with a friend of a friend. So I'd never even met this person, but they were just going to hold my passport, and then I was just going to go get it and fly to India, and it was going to be fine. But they didn't. They weren't even in the country. And so the passport, nobody knew where it was for 10 days, right? Nobody knew if the passport had even made it to the apartment complex, because, and it's also really weird to ask somebody, like, there were rockets falling on Tel Aviv, regardless of your politics, there were rockets falling there. And so it's hard to ask somebody, do you know where my passport is, when they're worried about their family safety. Right?
Yeah.
And when they're, her cousin, friend of a friend's cousin, was the only one in the apartment at that time. And they were going back and forth to the barracks and, preparing to, I don't know, for whatever. And so they didn't have time to do anything. Oh, we're back.
I have an hour time cut out, so cut out, but we'll continue with the story.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah, where should I go back to?
It was only like a few seconds, so like Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Back and forth from barracks.
Yeah, back and forth from barracks. So nobody was there. Eventually they find it.
Yeah.
But they're like, we can't really ship it to you because we just don't have time. Like, there's too much other stuff going on. So my mom and I, for 2 weeks, try and figure out if we can get a courier service to come pick it up and ship it.
Yeah.
If just somebody can do something with it. If I had friends who were leaving Israel who could take my passport and I'd fly to meet them somewhere. Yeah. We really didn't know. Until I messaged my buddy, Nir, shout out Nir, who I traveled with in Guatemala. We did a Catanango together. And he didn't live in Tel Aviv, but he offered to drive 3 hours to Tel Aviv to get my passport. And so my friend's cousin put my passport in the electrical cabinet on the 4th floor of her apartment and texted me the code to get in, which I sent to my friend who drove across the country, got the passport, and there was only one working DHL facility in the whole country, and that was Tel Aviv airport.
Yeah.
So he drove another hour and then shipped it over to Istanbul next to the hostel that we were staying at because we went to Turkey instead of Israel.
Yeah.
So we get to Istanbul and he shipped it to the DHL office by my hostel. I picked it up and then 2 days later went to India.
Jesus Christ. Because that, wow.
Yeah.
Because I wow.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my gosh, that's stressful enough. Because I'm kind of dealing with that now.
Mm.
It's nothing like a freaking passport of significance, but my story, and I still don't know how it's going to happen. I've signed up for a half Ironman for Melbourne, November 10th. And the thing is, there's 2 friends I have in Australia that I will be seeing. One who lives in Brisbane, and he's done Ironmans before. So he's done them like at least once a year. And I want to spend a full month before the race with him training, which makes sense. The thing is, he has a whole family, haven't talked to him for a long time, but keeping in contact, and I can go visit him. The thing is, I need to get a bike, like $1,000, $2,000 bike in Brisbane, use it, train with it, and then get it to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I have a different friend, not Canberra, some other city, like 300 kilometers away from Melbourne, who I'm going to see afterwards, and I met on my travels.
Nice.
He is going to, I'm going to travel with him afterwards, but he has a bike that I might need, exactly what I need. So now I'm just like, he's traveling in a week to Peru. So within the week, I got to figure out like my friend's details in Brisbane, if I can ship his bike from that place to Melbourne. I'm like, this is so hard. So I can't imagine something as important as a freaking passport. Because in my head, I would have just brought that my entire trip.
Yeah, well, I didn't know where it was, so my mom first had to find it.
Oh.
I thought she was saying like, why didn't you bring it? I said, I don't have it. And she was, no, I gave it to you.
And then she found it.
And then she found it in her safe. And I was like, there you go.
Bro.
There you go. Love you, Mom, but come on.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so.
Long conversation on that. Like,
yes.
Man turn. But I think, that is one of the most unique experiences.
That was the craziest part of my trip.
I don't...
Were those 2 months there?
Those sound crazy.
Okay, next question.
Read through these, actually. Pick your most intriguing one.
You travel without data, most important phrases. How did you prepare for your travels? I didn't. When you get sick, how does that change your plans and what's the best way to deal with it? That's a good one. Biggest regret during your travel?
Want to do that one?
Sure.
Okay, biggest regret during our travels.
Do you want to go first?
Biggest regret. I'm trying to think because like most of my travels
I don't really have any regrets.
I don't either.
I think that's like the point, right? At the end of the day, your travel is not going to be what you expected.
Yeah.
But it is going to be, what you need.
Yeah, like the travel part, like the things that you regret, like I regret missing this and this, missing this. You're gonna miss something in every flipping country.
You can't. Yeah, you can't do it all.
You have to submit and say like, I'm going to miss this X, Y, and Z in this country. Yeah. You're gonna miss something. You don't have all the time in the world to see it. Some people do. Some people live in Colombia for like 7 months and still haven't seen some amazing places.
Yeah.
So you're gonna miss something despite the fact. So I don't feel like that's a regret during my travels, but I feel like regret and like, I mean, I had money I could use sparingly to the locations I wanted to go, such as Antarctica. I'm really happy I went there.
Yeah. I think, how about like things you might do differently?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like that's, or just, I guess.
Like how would you adjust your travels now that we have the knowledge that we would have?
I think for me, I would do what you did in Argentina, where you slowed down.
Slowing down. This all ties into burnout.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could just get to burnout afterwards.
Yeah. We'll lead into this.
But just slow down and spend a bit of time in a comfortable place that you don't have to spend a lot of energy existing in. Because over a long time, it adds up.
Yeah.
Every micro decision, everything that you're doing adds up.
Everything you're thinking of. The being aware nonstop, trying to figure out a new currency in a new country, the safety, what to do, where to go, what you want to do, talking to all these people. Like, we're both very extroverted, but I think that goes to show like we still burn out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like as extroverted as you want to be, you're going to be burnt out at a time. I think I was able to go for like 3 months, probably strong, 4 months as much.
Yep.
But after that, I was like, I needed a place where I can stop and talk to someone normally that knows you. Like you can't, the surface level questions, that's one I didn't like. I think something I go back and do differently is how I carry out conversations with other people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's like, oh, I would do X, Y, and Z. You have to do this. I don't have to do shit.
Yeah.
I'm out here doing what I want to do. So like, I like your input because I like X, Y, and Z. And like, if you like to party and I'm not in my party phase right now, I don't want to party.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have to go to Huaycachina in Peru. It's an oasis, beautiful, amazing party town. Definitely wasn't feeling party-ish in that time, and it didn't have a great time. So, but I'm sure if you've been there wanting to party, my God, it is a beautiful place.
Right.
But yeah, like I would talk to myself, like how I would recommend things to other people, how I would talk to people is what I would change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because sometimes you don't have that confidence until you're deep into your travel to be like, let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Like there's different conversations with different people. I remember meeting 3 UK girls, and we bumped into each other 3 or 4 times. We skipped all the surface level questions and just complained about being like talking about surface level questions. We talked about deeper stuff.
Yeah.
And I still never got their name or contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, like things I would do differently. I think going into it, I did the experiences. I knew that was something that I wanted to spend my money on.
Yeah.
I knew that whatever money you spend traveling is going to be worth it, right? You can always...
Absolutely. Your stupid money, the expensive stuff.
Your stupid tax, the expensive stuff, the cheap stuff. Like, it's all going to be worth it when you look back on it. So just do it.
Yeah.
You're going to get the money back eventually, right? You have a lifetime to work.
Yeah.
I don't know the next time that I'm going to have an opportunity to travel for a year.
The thing is, I don't either. And the thing is like, well, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, you're about to go do it anyway.
I'm just like, screw it. I'm out again. Like it's everything at home has stayed the same. If not, has been okay. I know I can come back to a car, a place to live, and a job, which a lot of people don't have, unfortunately.
Yes. I mean, we absolutely have to acknowledge the privilege that we have for traveling, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's an incredible experience. And it's not one that a lot of people have the opportunity to do. So if you do have it, I would say take it, right? Like
it's like, I'd say depending on where you are in life, because I'm reviewing, like looking at what I'm going to refer to Alex a lot here, but like Alex, what he has, there's things in his life I'm very jealous of. It's a mutual friend. lives in Vancouver, like has a place, has a job, girlfriend, and there's some things I'm envious about it. But like for him, travel, like he's probably going to Iceland next, or like he takes the opportunity to look out and explore, like absolutely do that. Explore, go out your comfort zone and find maybe a place you would never go to or think about.
Yeah.
Because like Iceland, geez, my gosh, I would love to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing. You don't have to do it all at once, but
yeah,
it's a huge privilege. So
take that privilege and just run with it, because it's so fruitful.
Yeah, it's not always beautiful.
No.
And
it is going to be
well-rounded.
It's going to be well-rounded, because I remember talking to, I can't remember who it was, someone on one of the travels, but you're going to have a really terrible week where you're like, why did I even come out here? This sucks. Why did I choose traveling? This is horrendous. And then just give it a week. Give it a week. And then the next week you're on flipping cloud nine, like, I love this. This is amazing. Yeah. It's such a flip of the dice or like coin. It's just like you can be so high and so low, but it averages. It's really nice experience.
So that leads us in. Should we talk about the lows?
We should talk about burnout. Absolutely I think we should clean up with burnout, because this next one, let's see. I'm just seeing the time.
Yeah.
We've
already been like an hour.
It's been an hour and 12 minutes pretty much.
Okay, so let's do burnout and then we can call it.
Yeah. So travel burnout. Oh boy. So my question is, for you, when did you feel the travel burnout? Because it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah. I was good all through Europe. I was good all through the Middle East. India and Nepal, and then at the end of Nepal, I was done. So that was 7 months.
That's incredibly long, bro.
Yeah. It helped that I was with Laura.
Absolutely. If you're traveling with Laura, like, and you traveled for what, 7 months together?
Yeah, we did almost the whole time together.
My gosh.
Minus like a few weeks,
Yeah, like you need your
personal
time, so you kind of broke off maybe 1-2 weeks, but majority is 7 months.
And big shout out to Laura. I love her. She's amazing.
I mean, I will admit, I am definitely jealous of that, but that also brings up other questions about travel partner.
Yes.
But
that's, shit.
But that helps, like 7-8 months of like, that's a long time until you hit travel burnout. But once,
it is.
For me, my travel burnout happened a lot quicker. I think I was...
Yeah, how long was it?
It came in bursts, because like once I was in Galapagos, that was about 4 months into my travels.
Yeah.
That's where I really felt like, I put too much on my plate and I don't know how to handle it. And I didn't have anyone to vent that to.
Yes.
Because it felt bad for me. Like, I didn't want to call my family or friends, like close friends here, because you don't have anyone who's going, like, it seems like, I can't be complaining about this. It's a beautiful experience, right? And it felt weird. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in Galapagos, literally a dream location for a lot of people, yet I feel overwhelmed and stressed. Yeah. And like, who the hell am I able to call and say like, yo, I'm really stressed out, but like, dude, you're snorkeling with freaking sea turtles, and like, how can I even complain? Who's going to understand me and have perspective? I'm like, well, actually, I have a friend who's traveling along with me. So calling you definitely helped push me through a fewer months, but I definitely felt it after Peru. Like, it crept up on me again once I got through Peru, and like, I was just egging to get to my friend Marcelo. Love Marcelo, man. But he had a place for me to stay for like halfway through 6 months, and I stayed there for a month, not really doing anything. Yeah. And just having a person you can talk to. I think that's a big one for travel burnout. Yeah. A deeper connection. You travel with someone who have a deeper connection, and then that really does help recharge, I would say. You need to be able to express yourself freely, right? And get into the true nature of what you're feeling and what you're going through. And it's hard to do that with people that you met at a hostel who, on the surface just want to have fun. They might be at a very different point in their travel than you. They might be 2-3 weeks in and just like, let's go out and drink. And just like, I've been doing that since freaking like 5 months ago. Like, I'm done with it. I'm over it. I don't want to talk to people at a bar. Yeah. So, but you seem to recover from yours. I recovered from mine quite well, because I think how everything lined up, because once I stayed with Marcelo, because I know Marcelo for a long time. We met in China during training, and we did 5 months together. I trained with him the most, so he knows me. And it's so nice to talk to someone who knows you. You have deeper conversations. He actually picked out a few things like, you haven't changed in 5 years in this way. And like, you compare yourself a lot to others, and that's something you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I subconsciously do that, how I was raised. But like, the only person you compare yourself is yourself.
Yeah.
So like having that conversation, taking care of his dog, his family, like just seeing his family like that really helped me like relax.
Yeah.
And then the next part, like a super high end energy of like a field trip to Antarctica.
Yeah.
It felt like a high school field trip. Like we had a lot of fun drinking and just that. I love that because it's just so many unique people, and I was fully recharged. And after talking to everyone there, that really recharged me even more.
Dude,
And then backpacking off that, Jamie came out.
Yeah.
Jamie, a elementary friend of 16 years, comes out to travel with me for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like he also the deeper conversation. So it was almost like a full, I would say like month and a half of deep conversation, traveling, knowing someone you're with.
Yeah.
And like fully expecting like, this is my break time.
Yeah.
I need to recover in X, Y, and Z ways. And there was a high energy experience that helped recharge what I wanted out of travel. Like it made me excited again for travel.
Yeah.
And like that was just like the midway point, and that carried me through the rest of the travels.
Yeah.
And I slowed down the pace as well. So that really helped me. But you kind of like had to go through it at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah. So after Sri Lanka, Laura and I split up. That was around New Year's. And then the rest of it, I did 2.5 months on my own. And then 6 weeks with my buddy Brett. But I was so burnt out, and I arrived in Thailand, which is where, you know, a lot of really young people start their trips.
Where I am.
Right? Yeah, that's where you're starting too, right? So I got there at month 8, and I was meeting people who were at month 1, month 2, you know,
a week or two in, like drinking, partying, like
that's just arrived, you know, fresh.
Yeah.
A lot of them were younger than I was. And I was having a hard time just like saying no, because when you're out there, it can feel, you feel
like maybe like
you got to do it.
You have, yeah, it's like experience it, and just like that's part of the culture there to go and drink and party.
Yeah, like the privilege of traveling is incredible, but there does come some weight with it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you do feel pressure to make the most of it and do everything all the time, and participate in everything.
Like make the most of it. There's so much pressure to do everything.
Yeah, and like you should be out of your comfort zone, but at a certain point, you have to find the balance. And so for me, you know, I mean, let's just get into it. Like I had stopped feeling altogether. I had just numbed out from Sri Lanka and in Thailand. And I was anxious all the time, and I was stressed, and I was, you know, just going through the motions of traveling and like trying to keep my shit together.
Like you disassociated with the emotions, really.
Yeah,
and then the travel just became like
routine,
like it. That sounds like work,
like
bro.
a chore. Yeah,
that seems like work. You're just there physically going through it, but like mentally you've checked out.
Exactly. And I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And, you know, I'd had mental health issues for a while. And then you get to a point where you're tired, exhausted in a foreign country alone. And you're super isolated, and nobody around you can really relate to what you're going through. And so you don't want to talk about it, but you need to talk about it. But you can't really call home because the time change is so different. So it crushed me. So yeah, it took a while to just figure that out, you know, build some habits, meditation, yoga. I went to a yoga retreat. That was fantastic. Kind of helped me, you know, kind of just sort my shit out, man. I don't know. Are we allowed to swear?
No, I didn't really. Yeah, okay.
Sure. You can bleep it later.
It's who we are, and just like I don't like the filtered of like this is top 10 things to do in Peru. Like this is real shit that we were talking about.
So yeah, I mean, I went to this yoga retreat, and I just cried. I just needed to cry it out. I was so just devastated, and the long-term stress of travel, you know, like I was gone for 340 days and there was probably 130 stops.
Jeez.
Right. So one every
You're moving every week, like literally you're not staying
twice
in
a week.
Yeah,
Twice
it's like,
a week minimum.
You're not like most of my travels and your travels. You're not really in a city for more than a week or two. You just get bored of the place. You need news, but then to consistently do that, it builds up.
It takes a lot of.
You can't fully unpack. You can't fully like rest. You can't. No. You're always half packed, half not packed.
And every decision you make at home, you have to think about extra, right? At home, I have groceries. I have stores. I have everything that I like. Everything around me, I know where it is.
You can build up what you have.
Yeah, and it's easy. You can get to a point where you don't have to put that much energy into a day. But when you're abroad, like you're always figuring out, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to stay? What am I going to do?
The eating part, just like you can't buy a dozen eggs.
Yeah.
Like that, you can't. I'm not going to be here in 3 days. Like, how am I supposed to go through a dozen eggs?
Man.
That's an annoying part for me on travel. And like, you don't know what your kitchen situation. Do you have a kitchen? Are you in a bunk bed? Like every single day.
Are you going to have the energy to cook?
Literally, like,
yeah.
So you go through every single one of these questions, and just like every micro decision you take for granted now in your norm to norm life, you have to reconsider and rethink about all those on a non-stop basis when you're traveling.
And it's fine if you're doing a month.
Oh yeah, a month or two. Like I feel like for most individuals who find themselves being extroverted, I feel like a 3-month mark is
good.
A good time where you don't feel the burnout. You learn a lot along the way of the first 3 months. And I feel like after the first 3 months, I was so much better at this.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there was sort of a graph to it, right? You do get in a groove. But yeah, so I just got destroyed in Southeast Asia for the last 4 months, and it was good for me, really. Like,
well, you are so vulnerable while traveling.
Yeah.
Because you are consistently tested. Like, do you want to go drinking now? I don't know. Like, am I?
Yeah.
Do you want to go hiking? Like, again, is it something I want to do? You're consistently being tested on your character, your personality.
Yeah.
And at one point, it's got to come out.
Yeah.
So, having a strong core of personality, who you are, is very key. But also, if you need to open that up and like explore that, that's also a great way to do it while traveling. Just a safe space is very important.
Yeah. And getting away, like getting away from all your comforts, all of your securities, all of your routines and people and influences, right? You really get a chance to figure out what you are, and then you get crushed by it. And then you're really just left with who you are, right? Yeah. You're forced to confront all the parts of you that you don't love, or that you know, when you get anxious or when you get sad, do you put on a show, or do you go talk to friends, or what happens when all of that is gone?
Yeah.
What happens when all of those are
everything
gone?
Is stripped away? Because I think what you're describing is beautiful in a sense, because I don't think you would have ever gotten there if you hadn't traveled.
No.
So it's beautiful in the sense that, one, it sucks. You had to go through it. Everyone's going through it. Mm-hmm. But once you get exposed and you're vulnerable, then you really start building from the core.
Yes.
And for you, that was this trip. For me, it was actually China, which I didn't move around. I didn't travel, but I was out there on my own in a foreign country. But the thing is, once I got there, it took a while to realize, but I had no car payments, no expectations of a job. That was 6 months, and I'm here for 6 months. I don't have to worry about that. Family expectations were thrown out the window the second I landed in China. Yeah. They thought it was a terrible idea to go there. And then I had a good career ahead of me. I had friends here. I had expectations, everything was stripped away, and all I had to focus on was martial arts. Yeah. I was like, I know that's something I love to do and it's healthy, but everything was stripped. Everything was done, and I was just, it felt naked, exposed, out there figuring myself out.
Yeah.
And then through that process of 6 months figuring it out, I built such a strong core of like, if I'm anxious, if I'm anything I feel like I know and I can address, I have the time to address.
Yeah.
To build that foundation there.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then I have to say, because of that, I think that's why I'm able to continue for another full year without much of batting an eye. Like, do I want to do another year? Sure, why not?
Yeah. Because I'm still very much like recovering from it, like still sitting with a lot of the lessons, a lot of the, the things that you confront when you're in those really vulnerable, really like lonely situations. And sometimes like you can come out of it and it sucks. But I don't know. I just think there's a beauty to it if you really want to test yourself.
Testing yourself is a big one, because I think one thing on my trip that I don't think anyone else in their travels will do is racing and doing these extreme sports.
Right.
Like I've seen some people, and I'm don't get me wrong, I'm actually quite jealous of some. Just like, I'm going to start doing a half Ironman, and I just learned I don't know how to swim. I'm like, I'm literally doing that as well.
Yeah.
But I'm also tagging along travel along the way. And then there's also the marathon I did in Peru, which is like everyone I had met there had the time at home. They had their own safety. They had their own system to train and be ready out there in their comfort. And then they have 2 extreme weeks in Peru. Whereas I've been traveling for the past 10 months and figuring out how to train for this marathon along the way. So that's a huge, I don't know why. I really shouldn't be doing this. I should be at home figuring out how to swim, figuring out how to bike, and then take a week to go to Melbourne. But I'm going to be out 3 months before this race and then continuing onwards. What takes us, those things are what makes or breaks me. I'm like, oh, don't care if I finish or not. I'm experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I think there's value in that as well.
It's true. It's true. There is, there is value in failure.
Yeah. And I think burnout is kind of necessary. There's ways to avoid it, which I think the main thing, what we've kind of learned from burnout is finding that safety, whether it's on the trail or coming back home. Is that burnout, most people will probably go home. That's where their safety is. But if you're able to create that safety net somewhere else out there, you can go so much longer.
Yeah.
Because just right now, this is my safety. This is my reset. Mm-hmm. It happens to be home. But when I'm out in Australia, I think there is going to be another safety net. I have a friend there. I think another safety net probably in Europe. There's really good friends I could stay with and just get along with, because I've met them during my travels. So piece by piece, I think in this next trip, which I think is going to be actually longer than a year, is to continue to make an effort to see those individuals. Not because it's great to see them, but it's a helpful reset for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the only way to do it is recovering, right? No matter who you are, you will burn out.
Yeah.
And it's important to address it. And it's important to find that stable ground where you can recover. But I don't know, some of the most valuable moments are in the burnout too. Right?
Yeah, because you then realize what you're kind of having to deal with and how to deal with it.
Yeah, and when you're in the shit, when you're deep in the shit and you're just sitting in it, it sucks. It sucks. But everything after that is pretty good, right? Everything after that, seems a lot less scary because you've done it. You've sat with it. You've experienced what it's like. And it's really weird for that to be when you're traveling, because, it is such a privilege and you can't complain about it. But yet your experience is still valid, right?
Yeah.
All the feelings that you have, all of the emotions you're experiencing are valid. So it's really unique.
Unique in a sense, because everyone's experience is going to be different. And I think what I hate and I really wish I could do, because I'm filming this, I make videos, I share the very vulnerable parts about myself because I'm very confident in myself. Mm-hmm. But the main thing that really annoys me is that the only person out there that can value as much as everything you've gone through is yourself. I'm not doing this for whoever's watching, or I value this so much to share that, hey, I'm out here being vulnerable. I'm doing this. Anyone can do this. And the person who values it the most is yourself. Do it for yourself.
Yeah. You got to do it for yourself.
Absolutely. And it's not go travel. It's going to be the best thing of your life. Some people don't need travel. My brother, he is a video game person and he couldn't care less where he travels to. He could go to Peru, China, or Europe. Doesn't make a difference for him. That's perfectly fine. If your dreams are not to travel, perfectly fine. But in whatever aspect you want to do, be vulnerable and test yourself, because then you grow.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And I think just travel is a very good embodiment of stripping yourself to be so vulnerable.
Yeah. Man, and talking about, people think it is a certain way when it's actually quite different is so true. I mean, even when I was going through the shit, in Southeast Asia, and I was, panic attacks all the time, didn't want to leave my hostel, but still was going out. I was still posting photos on Instagram, making it look sick.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's just, the reality of travel is that, it looks cool, but it's real life, but without any of your supports.
Yeah, it really leaves you vulnerable. Because one thing I've loved, and I talked to my old coworker, shop foreman, and he follows me. Like, a lot of my old coworkers follow me, and a lot of them's like, it's beautiful, it's amazing. Like, I've done some amazing things, absolutely mind-blowing stuff. But then I post like home for the next 28 hours, and it's a bus seat.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're like, oh. Just, maybe I wouldn't do that. It's just like give them a taste of realism. Like, hey, this is gonna be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna quickly plug in my GoPro.
Okay.
Because we got 2% on that bad boy.
I mean, that just reminds me of Bosnia. I told you the story of when I arrived off an overnight bus in Mostar.
Yeah.
And I had to find my way to my hostel without any data. And I arrived, but the hostel didn't open till 8:30, and it was 5 a.m. So I just fell asleep on the street outside of the hostel. And I woke up to this silhouetted figure of an old woman standing over me.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I thought I had died.
You weren't drunk on this part, were you?
No. I just hadn't slept on the bus, and I just was being woken up to this old woman surrounded by the sun, reaching out her hand down to me.
Wait, hold on. And your phone. Testing. Okay. You speak? Something?
Hello. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. All right.
We're back.
Bosnia, you're going to heaven.
Bosnia. Nah, the wonderful lady just let me in early, and I wasn't dying.
But no, there's some situations you're in, and you're just like, how the one phrase I love for travel is, how the fuck did I end up here?
Yeah.
That happens so often. Like, I'm trying to think of not going to heaven, but when was the time I felt like I was gonna die? I didn't ever feel my life. Oh my gosh, actually, I take that back.
Oh, we didn't get to your robbery.
Well, the robbery that's on me. Like, I'm gonna make this very short, but 2:30 a.m. Medellin, bro. I'm asking for it. Like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Like, everyone's like, you got robbed. I'm like, okay, first of all, it's my fault. I'm not blaming Colombia. I'm not blaming Medellin. Maybe the guy who tried to rob me, yes, but like, dude. It's 2:30 a.m. in Medellin, party time. Like, what did I expect?
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
But main thing is, I was just walking back to my hostel and had very loose shorts and very like loose pockets as well. Mm-hmm. And the guy's coming up and restaurante, and it's like, no gracias. And he's always like, restaurants. Like, there's no restaurant. There's no fucking restaurant. But he has menus in his hands trying to usher me into this restaurant. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then he bumped into me. The menus covered the pocket of where my wallet was, and he like stuck his fingers in, pulled it out, like sleight of hand, barely noticed this.
Yeah.
I took one step forward, and I wasn't that drunk. I was tipsy, but I wasn't that drunk to not notice. And it's like, where's my wallet? And I turned around and confronted him, like, you're the only person who bumped into me, and like, it's obviously you, and it happened in the last 5 seconds. It's like, where's my wallet? And he acted ignorant, like, oh, I don't know, no one say, like, and then before he could ever leave, I went and patted him down, his pockets, his back pockets, before he could even leave. Nothing there. Not even a phone. I'm like, what the fuck? And then after I'm like, I'm going to check his hands. He was hiding my wallet under the menu. And I'm like, you sly motherfucker. And I'm just like staring at the guy because he's from Colombia. He's not as tall as me. I'm very fortunate to be a tall Asian. But like, I was towering over him, so I just stared him down. And he's like, he's just like caught in the act. It's like, obviously. And I more or less just intimidated him off the street. But the thing is, I still would have done the same thing if I was sober. I was just very fortunate he did not have a weapon or with other people.
Yeah.
So I think that tipsy part of me did not calculate that or think about that when I confronted him.
Yeah.
So I am very lucky, but it did happen, and it probably will happen. And the best way for me, my wallet had my Visa, which I can lock via my phone. It would have been 5 minutes before I could lock it. a debit card that wasn't my actual debit card that I used to withdraw money. It was my Wise debit, which I can order again, whatever. And I had about $5 in the wallet. Nothing else like that. I keep my wallet very bare. All the essentials that I need. Some people like that money belt. All the essentials are in there.
Yeah.
Or locked away in their locker in the hostel.
Yeah.
So like when I go out and I know I'm going to be out late, I don't bring a lot of valuables with me. So that has saved me a lot of headache, even if it was stolen. It would have inconvenienced me just for the credit card that was going to expire in a few months anyway. So that was, Did you get robbed?
Never.
That's amazing, honestly. Because I will say, I feel like Europe, you're going to get robbed a lot more often than Latin America.
I mean, the most dangerous place that I went was probably London, England.
Dude, I'm much more concerned about being robbed there than anywhere else I've been.
It definitely wasn't Morocco. It wasn't anywhere in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, India, or Nepal. It was London, England.
You guys hear that? The most dangerous place in the world. No.
Before that, out of all the places I've been, was probably Colombia.
Colombia, yeah.
But even then, it felt like there were ways to survive and get around.
Yeah, it's not. The hardest part is the phone.
Yeah.
Like I've had my friends, they say their phone getting taken. That's a freaking headache.
Oh, that sucks so bad.
Because your life, a lot of it's on there. Your flight tickets, your hostels, where you're going, like everything's already even pre-logged in. So for me, I always had a spare phone, always on the ready. Had everything I needed.
That's a really good idea.
And it saved my ass a few times.
Yeah.
Never because my phone, this phone had water damage in the port, so you couldn't charge it. And once this dies, it's gone. But my other phone could wirelessly charge this one.
Okay.
So wirelessly charging is a big one. And it's saved, like that wirelessly charging feature saved 2 other travelers when their same issue, that port goes out.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, extra phone. I think that's and that obviously you don't ever travel with your backups all together in one place.
Yeah. That defeats the purpose.
It literally defeats the purpose. If you have your passport, both phones, and all your money and debit cards in one backpack, what happens when that backpack's gone? You're fucked.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, those small things. Always constantly think about that stuff. No, but the time that I almost died, is probably hiking Huayna Potosi. That was... Because what's the highest elevation you've gotten up to when you traveled?
In Nepal, we went to 5,000.
5,000.
Yeah, felt pretty high.
That's very high. Because I did mine, not gradually, like... Fuego Acatenango was like 4,000.
Yeah.
And then I got to Peru, and you could pretty much drive up to 4,700.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You could drive up to that elevation. And then it's just a 300-meter elevation gain, walk 40 minutes, not much, to Rainbow Mountain. So a lot of people have been to that elevation of 5,000.
Yep.
But then Huayna Potosi was 6,000.
Yeah, that's really high.
And dude, it's rough because like you can't hike in the morning because the sun will it melts the snow, avalanche prone. So you have to start at midnight. Fucking midnight. And then you're hiking in the dark. I didn't take any medication for this altitude sickness. I was an idiot. I don't know why I didn't bring my medication. I had it all in my freaking backpack. I forgot to bring it. But I just suffered through it. Had a really hard headache, like really bad one. And I was just suffering. And the thing is, all my concentration is walking, like hiking. This is everything. Every ounce of my morsel is just focused on hiking. And the thing is, you're in the dark. You can't see anything. And then as you're hiking, you look to the side, there's a huge crevice. You could be gone, one misstep. And we're constantly roped into 2 other people. Once we started, we're roped into 2 other people, and those people are with you that entire time.
Crazy.
And I downplayed it. I thought oh yeah, I did that. It was pretty hard. But the person I was with, Simone, she had done done Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
And a lot of people put that as like a high prestigious, the tallest mountain in Africa to summit. And she said that was one of the more difficult things she's done. Mm-hmm. And she did this, and this was by far the most difficult thing she's done. So for me, I would even it was harder than a normal marathon. I have done the hardest marathon in the world. That fucking kicked my ass. But this was up there, probably the second hardest thing I've done, which is something that was... Yeah, that literally was. Usually I put my GoPro and to get a beautiful sunrise. If it was blown off that mountaintop, it's gone. it was so dangerous. Because climbing down, I'm like, what the fuck did we walk through? Because everything's a pitch black. And then you walk down, like, that's a cliff I walked past. A literal cliff. I'm like, how the...
Almost better that you didn't see it.
Yeah, literally, on your way up, you're just suffering, like, when the fuck is the end? And you never see it, you just see headlights. But on the way down, you see what you just traversed, and you're like,
Crazy.
how the... There's, like, a portion where your ice pick up. It's 85 degrees at minimum, like, 85 degrees. Not that far, maybe, like, 50 meters, 30 meters, not even that bad of, like, distance. But, like, straight up.
Still pretty high.
Still freaking high. And the thing is, I got the headache so bad, I was like, I'm hallucinating. There's a dog beside me. And then I'm like, Simone, is there a dog here? It's like, you also see that? And this is after the 85 degree like climb. I'm just like, am I hallucinating, man? How the frick did this dog get up here? It's just chilling. I'm like, I was so like, what? And I didn't see it climb up or down that, but someone else who had done, they saw the same dog. It literally just ran it up like nothing, like a mountain goat. Like it was nothing to climb up that thing. And I genuinely thought I was hallucinating at that point. I'm like, how the fuck is there a dog? I'm at 5,700 meter elevation.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, at that point, I definitely was questioning what was real and what wasn't. And I'm hiking beside crevices right here.
Yeah.
That's easily the most dangerous thing I've done.
Is this dog real?
You also see it? Yes. Okay, it's not me.
Joint hallucinations.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
Anyway, I think next time, this would be fun. I'm going to label this as like sober conversation because we're sober. Next time we'll get into the nitty gritty of like drunk conversation of all the rest of what we've done.
Yeah.
Because we've just talked about general travel stuff. We have not talked about much. I mean, your experiences like Morocco and Lebanon and Jordan, but like my experience from the marathon to Antarctica, never touched on that. You have also probably other places such as your experience in Southeast Asia, what you've done there. India. We haven't really talked anything about our travels, just generic traveling.
Yeah, we could just do a drinking episode.
Yes.
Of just
getting drunk.
Talking about random bullshit.
Yeah.
And maybe nobody but us will watch it.
I honestly will see. And this is still part of recording, but if you see a second video and you're a future employer, click off.
Exit out.
It's privatized. You'll never see it.
Yeah. No, but this was fun.
That's great. All right. I'm going to close it. And I'll post this probably in a week.
Okay. Bye, guys.
It's so weird talking to camera.
Bye-bye.
Bye.